All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give our praises to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Kakadash. Devour honor to Els Apostle Great Millstone, Thomas Truth and Rule Well. Peace, blessings, and salutations to Icon out there, scattered abroad to the four corners of the earth, that is serving His truth and not truth and sincerity. To I say Shalom. This is Brother Nabala. Come to another video in the spirit. And the top of this video is going to be about never trusting thy enemy, And what sparked this video topic was, this past weekend, a couple of the brothers, we went to go see that movie Sinners. And then just, I'm not going to spoil it, if you haven't seen it yet. But if just watching that movie, you can see, how E moves, and how they try to come to you, with that subtlety, They try to come all peaceful, like they got like they coming with your best interest, They coming with that trying to be your friend, type of mindset. But we know deep down, that they're the devil, man. And then they don't like Jake. They just tolerate Jake, but they don't like Jake. And deep down we know that they want to try to come up against Jake and get rid of Jake. And that's how E operate. So when you grab this is Sirach 12:10. It says, never trust thine enemy, for like his iron rusteth, so with his wickedness, though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him. And thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped away looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust have not been altogether wiped away. Yeah. So that goes into say something has some rust on it and you spray some coating on it. It looks good. It looks good, You don't know what's underneath. But then when it's wiped away, you'll see that it's still rusty. That's how E is. E will be in your face, trying to make seem like he cool, but deep down he's still that same devil. And in the movie they showed that, in that one of the earlier scenes, E was trying to, act like he was just trying to conduct business. You want to, act like, he was cool and saying that, everything was all good. But then when you got to the end of the movie, it was revealed, who he was truly. He was an evil person, and he was coming back to get rid of Jake, because that's how they are. They want to get rid of Jake. They want to exterminate us. Because we're in their eyes, we are a disease that need to be get rid of. So that's why you never trust them, because they're liars too. When you go to John 8:44, it says, ye are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father you will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. He's the father of lies, man. The truth is not, it just says the truth is not in him. Okay? He doesn't know truth. He know how he gets over on people is through his lies, man. And coming, with that, that soft, like it says, when you go to here, to Psalms 55:21, it says, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but words in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. Yeah, come with those smooth words, Like, no, man, it's not that. That's not how it is, man. No, we cool. I'm just trying to look out. That's how they come with those smooth words. But deep down, war is in his heart. And you seen that in that movie. And I was just showing you, how they really are out here. you got E that be trying to say that they not racist, but deep down they still are, you know. They don't want Jake around them. They don't want Jake in their area. If you go out to anywhere where it's majority E, they'll look at you. You're like, why? What you doing out here? These things still exist to this day. And then when you see, and you got a glimpse of that when Trump doing the the campaigns, between him and Kamala. One thing that one of the dudes, I forgot who it was, but one of the Trump campaigns, they basically said if Kamala was to get in office, that they happy that they got whoever on their side because they gonna basically start an uproar. But it was the Proud Boys or something like that. But if you have knowledge of that group, you can tell that they're a racist group. They don't like Jake. So you seen that, during the campaign, how E really feels about Jake. And then you seen it now, how you got the Northern Kingdom getting deported. They don't have no sympathy for them. So you never trust this man, and that's what Jake is learning now. You had some from the Northern Kingdom who voted for Trump. You got some Jake who trusted in this man, but now they see he's showing his horns now, and now they getting hit with a rude awakening. So but that's because they don't know the scriptures, man. If Jake would come into the fold and get into the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, you will come across the scriptures and you will understand to never trust them. Scriptures say if it's possible, live peaceful with all men. So yeah, you be at peace with them. You don't go out here looking for trouble. You don't go out here just talking shit at you already to jump on their ass. But deep down that they are the devil, man. That they don't like you. And you really can't trust what they say. So let me grab this. It's Ecclesiastes 7:7. It says, surely oppression make the wise man mad, and a gift destroys the heart. Yeah. And you seen that in that movie too. E came, low, fucked up, then came with, like as always, like, that's what I got, just please, and what happened? The people fell for it. And what ended up happening when they fell for it? They got caught up in the mix. I'm speaking like this because I don't want to give away the movie, because I'm pretty, so in case you didn't see it, but yeah, that was a prime example, of don't can't trust them, and that's how they come. They come with gifts, You would be like I'm gonna give you an example. So say an E that supposedly look like he's down bad, he's seeking for help, he comes to your door asking for help, and he say, look, this what I got, this all I got, and he's like, all right, we'll take it. You come in here, and you don't know who you just let into your home. He could be a killer, a rapist. It can be all type of things, But that's how E does. E tries to play on the emotions, and then he tries to come with some type of something to win you over with, And you see that throughout the time, when anytime you accept something from E, or you accept anything in general, as far as money, it triggers your mindset, like it makes you forget what you once was standing on, because you were blinded by that money. That's why it says this gift destroys the heart. A lot of people, when they have morals or values or certain stances they stand on, once they was offered some money, they went back from it, and then they end up not being in their best interest. That's why you gotta come. That's why when you come over here, the 1 Peter's 5:8, it says, "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom ye may devour. So yeah, you gotta be sober and be vigilant, man. Okay? Can't get caught up in that greedy type of mindset. You know, can't be out here just not on your shit. Cause you not on your shit, he gonna get you. And he always looking for a way to get you. You know? And he's gonna try all different type of ways. You know? We gotta understand that this man is our enemy. You know, when you go to Psalms 83, it tells you about who our enemies are. But Esau is the number one enemy of Jake, man. And that has not changed. This goes all the way back to Jacob and Esau. And it still lives on to this very day. You know, so that was a great interpretation of the movie to show that. You know, how he operates, you know. They'll deal with Jake, but deep down they don't like Jake, and they want to try to get rid of us, you know. But in the end, what's gonna happen? Because this perpetual hatred that they have had all this time, because of this crafty counsel they have taken against Jake, in the end, it's not going to stand. Because what does it say? It says, "For Esau is the end of the word, and Jacob is the beginning of that follower." So we know that in the end, E's going to be taken out, and Jake is going to be on top. Jake's going to be ruling over E, and we're going to repay back all the things that they have done to us throughout all the years. So we just have to continue to be patient and wait on it. But we know that's the end of Esau. So that's pretty much it. Although when this video is edifying, I'm going to close out by giving our praise to Yahweh. Bashim Yahweh Shai. Bashim Rakakadash. Shalom.